Thanks for tuning into this episode of FinTech Focus TV, powered by Harrington Starr, the global leaders in financial technology recruitment. Head over to the Harrington Starr website where you'll be able to find all the latest jobs in financial technology across the globe. You'll also be able to download the latest issue of the Financial Technologist magazine, including the Top 1% Workplace Awards. Finally, if you're looking to grow your team, please get in touch. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to our episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby, and I'm absolutely delighted to have in the studio today Rebecca, Healey and Matthew Coupe. Lovely to see you both.
Good to see you too.
Good to see you, Matt. So we're talking about the FIX trading event. It's going to be absolutely electric this year. It's always one of my favourites every single year. I think we've been going for best part of a decade now.
I was going to say, don't show your age.
And I'm promised bigger, better, bolder, everything in between this time out. Lots of stuff to get through. So we're going to talk through a little bit about what's happening, what people can expect from it. Give us an intro. Tell us what's
it's actually over a decade. This is where it's really showing my age in the industry. It's going to be more of the same. But actually, I think we're going to have even more senior discussions, more engagement. We've really got some recognition now globally within regulators on this event. We have two commissioners, one from the SEC, one from the CFTC speaking. We're going to have representation from ESMA, FCA, ASIC, and there's a real global agenda that's being passed through here. Critically, I think on top of that, it's setting the strategy. It's setting the work that needs to be done for all participants. This isn't a buy-side only event. This isn't a sell-side focused event. This is about the regulators, the fintech providers, the trading venues, the sell side and the buy side all coming together as part of the whole transactional flow process to actually improve things and actually look at what's evolving and where people need to invest and where they need to change.
I mean, if you think about it, FIX was sort of the birth of electronic trading. And if we're where we are now, it's the evolution of electronic trading, and FIX sits at the heart of that.
Absolutely.
But as Matt says, it's not just about on the execution element. You know, it is the full trade life cycle, which means you're bringing in every element of the financial services market ecostructure to sit around a table and say, okay, how do we need to do things better? You know, where are the pitfalls? Where are the problems? The work that has gone on sort of over the last couple of years, just in relation to improving transparency, you know, how can we actually make the trading workflow process improve for the benefit of all? You know, that whole sort of ethos of park your ego at the door and actually how can we work together better within the industry, I think is one of the reasons why we've been able to demonstrate to regulators the value add of FIX.
And that collaboration has been something that's evolved, hasn't it? Because if you do go back 10, 15, 20 years, it was always a very sort of probably suspicious industry. No one really wanted to share their toys. No one really wanted to come together. And I think the work that you guys have done has been incredible at helping drive and move things further forward. And you touched on it at the very start of this. Look, it's a global event, and I know that FIX has become more and more global, and the events that you've done all over the world over the last couple of years have sort of grown in stature and size. But this has always been the sort of the core of all of this, and sort of bringing people in from all around the world is a really important part of it.
100%, and the fact that we've got commissioners from US regulators flying in to engage, I think is an underline of that. I think it's a change. It's not just a change in the industry, it's a change in the regulator's mindset as well. Commissioner Pham has set up global market structure committees in the CFTC. We've got the FCA with their secondary markets advisory committee.
Not forgetting ESMA's secondary market standing committee. It's exactly the same. They really want engagement from the industry to understand how things can be improved.
And critically, it would be wrong not to also recognise ASIC with Greg, who has been a long supporter and understanding of data standards and how this feeds in.
We've got a new venue. We're moving away from the tried and tested. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, it's a new venue, but it's I think it marks a new chapter within FIX, and I think we're recognising that actually we need to be bigger and bolder, just in terms of the interest that we now have from the industry, but also it's making sure that we get the proper engagement. So people, it's the opportunity to learn, it's the opportunity to network, but I think we're trying to do more now around actually individual processes where we can improve, but through discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's good to see that sort of thing as you talk about, because this is a tribe that's grown and grown over the years, right? From small origins to mighty oaks grow, and we're at that sort of phase, right? So to have that sort of venue where you can have, a modern feel to it and the opportunity to people to connect, but also to have the various streams that you're coming into. And there's a lot of good things that we're talking about, and the content I think is very much at the core of what you guys are able to do with the event. So tell us a little bit about, and I know the community drive the topics that are there to be talked about on the day, but tell us a little bit about what we can expect.
Well, I'll start off, I think it's critical, the community does drive it. So the key thing with this is that all members, and if they haven't engaged already, a little bit late now, but they can for next year, but they can engage in the content and feed in, and actually everyone has an open view to be able to come in and actually engage. So it's open to all FIX members to come and do this. But I mean, Rebecca, do you want to start us off?
Well, I mean, obviously we're going to open with a regulatory panel, because I think it's very important that the industry understand the regulators' mindset and where they're at. So it's not necessarily the laundry list of what is coming. It's more around where is the industry going, what do we need to start thinking about, and how can we prepare ourselves for it. So we're trying to move it up a notch this year and talk about the bigger picture. So one of the panel's discussions is, we always have an equities market structure panel, but rather than it being a traditional, forgive me, bun fight between who's got the best equity product, we're trying to look at actually what needs to happen within equity markets, because we still have the traditional problems of secondary lit market volumes declining, the increase on the close. Dark is no longer seen perhaps in the same negative light that it once was. There are different ways and means that we need to engage with available liquidity. So we had a discussion at FIX Paris, which we want to try and evolve and develop in the London event. And it's really starting to ask more pertinent questions about how do we fix our markets. Now, some people may say that's not the job of FIX, but actually FIX has got a unique viewpoint by having a lot of different representation from the industry. And if we have that open discussion, then we can start pushing forward some ideas that maybe other industries might feel slightly more uncomfortable talking about. Absolutely. For example, crypto, AI, those are going to have an impact on the future of our industry. Let's have the debate.
Yeah, very much so.
And then, moving on from equities, you've also got fixed income discussion as well. There is a huge amount of market structure change happening there. We have panels covering a large area of that, looking at the impacts of trading, looking at what the huge evolution we're going to see in the next 2-3 years is critical. And also with half an eye in terms of how that's evolving and understanding what's happened in other asset classes, what's gone so well, what hasn't gone so well, what has gone well, and is there a position to learn from that, or is fixed income completely different?
Yeah, and then obviously moving on to AI, the buzzword gets thrown around left.
Any conversation, let alone any agenda.
But we started having a discussion at FIX Paris. We want to evolve and develop it and ask, the sort of more riskier questions in terms around, will AI take my job? What's that going to look like? How does AI work in our industry? So take it away from buzzword bingo and actually try and drill down, see what the potential benefits are, speak to the experts actually sitting in the seats so that they can tell us how they're choosing to evolve AI within their own organisations, because there's an element of risk here. Everybody's aware that the regulators are looking at it, how it's seen in terms of potential risk for the industry. So again, it's having the open discussion so we all walk in with our eyes wide open and see it as a benefit rather than a negative.
That's got to be the key, hasn't it? I have so many conversations where everyone's talking about, or the opportunities within it, but actually sort of narrowing that down and saying, taking away the fear factor, which I think is definitely there when, is it taking my job, etc., and just working out how it can augment as opposed to anything else. I think it's going to be a really important thing to come out from it.
Critically, the other thing I'd say to that as well, which makes FIX the most relevant place to deal with this, if we don't have the data standards and we don't have effective data running through this, AI isn't going to be any good. So the key thing is that, and it's that ground level. We need to get the foundation there to actually build it up into to actually be that really useful building that everyone wants to be in.
Yeah. And T+1 obviously on
another topic. But again, actually, just to Matt's point, this is really where FIX has a role to play in terms of the nuts and bolts. So we know T1's coming down the track. Again, it's sort of the immediate reaction is, do we need to do this? Does this work? And what we're trying to focus on within FIX is, okay, let's ask the questions about how could it potentially work? What are the questions we need to ask? Could we as an industry actually take that huge step back and say, rather than say, oh, we can't speed up the settlement process, what in the settlement process can we improve? How can we do things differently? What questions do we need to be asking? Because I think one of the important things that's coming out is this actually isn't about just speeding up settlement. It's about funding. It's about how do you fund an investment idea, whether you're talking at an asset manager level or whether you're managing risk. And I think there are new elements and debates that we need to bring to the discussion. And talking to market participants about how they're going to react to the US move to T+1, some are saying, we're going to move our US trading up in the day. That's an interesting idea. So what happens at the US close? Can you do that, even dependent on the type of flow that you have? Others are talking about, okay, we'll switch into S&P futures rather than trade the actual US underlying because we have less of a funding problem. What are the ramifications around that? Do you have the right reporting structure in place? Do you have the right back office process so that you can actually manage that change in asset flow? So what we want to do is really force the debate on, rather than it be should we, shouldn't we move to T+1. How could we make it happen?
It's such an interesting area, isn't it? So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing is there's been a huge amount of industry dialogue on this. A lot of backwards and forwards, a lot of people spending a lot of time here and asking questions around it. Critically to me, and this is where FIX, as Rebecca said, sort of comes in, is actually breaking down that transactional workflow from front to back across the entire investment cycle in terms of how does the trading flow work, how does the data standard work, how does actually people trade, is actually a really important question to come through, and then what are the issues that come up from that. And asking those questions is going to be a massive differentiator from the do we do T+1, do we not do T+1? To me, it's actually asking the questions and having that full discussion, which I think has been missing.
And we want to expand it even further by this year having a separate work stream, and we're going to take apart, as Matt says, those individual sections and really do a deep dive into them to say, is there something that we could do differently here? And if that is the case, how would we go about achieving that?
The work stream's an interesting addition this time out, isn't it? And I know you guys are looking at that, and it's again something which people have to sort of book early to avoid disappointment, as we were talking about beforehand, because this is something which you're doing differently. Talk to us about the thinking behind that.
Yeah, so there is a dedicated work stream that's being set up onto T+1. And this is going to, as I said, it's going to break down into the different areas of which has been well identified in terms of across the whole transactional life cycle, in terms of what people need to be thinking about. It's going to be interactive workshop. There are going to be limited numbers of seats available to that. It is open to all FIX members to come in and join. It's going to be difficult because there's a huge demand, but we've got real industry leaders who've been doing a huge amount of work there, engaging and running these workshops to actually come through. And I think it is going to be different because it's not just going to be that one panel and that 45 minutes where you're trying to squeeze all the content in. This is actually a whole day in itself. And it's kind of a mini conference running on the side. But it's going to be very, very important, and I think it's going to set the agenda of the work that needs to be done.
But I think that's it, isn't it? It's about the outcomes. So rather than it just being going on a panel, having a discussion, what we want to do is actually identify areas that FIX can help and can improve, and what those are, and how actually the industry can get involved. Because I think it's important to recognise whether T+1 happens tomorrow or in 118 days or whatever the US move is, or next year or the end of the decade. This is something that will happen in terms of shortening the settlement cycle. But rather than, again, I think it's not just like how do we speed things up. I think it is more about, is there a better way to do this?
I think this has always been probably the most impressive thing about FIX is that you're right, it's not just about discussing and then going off and talking about some of the things you've heard people talking about. It's been about action, and you do that through loads of the different initiatives that you do and programs that you put in there. It's about moving the industry further forward, which I think has been impressive.
Completely agreed, and I think the idea behind the conference is to try and, it's not just having that conference, having really effective networking, having that really engagement, because that is also really important for a conference, but it's actually the output of what we need to do in terms of the work that needs to happen. But alongside that, it's not just about the tech of evolution, the trading evolution. It's also about the people, and we've got the people panel as well.
I'm excited about this one. So this is something which we've done over in the US a couple of times now. I've been involved in 2 panels at the Americas Trading Conference, which I've loved, and I'm really pleased that it's sort of come onto the agenda over here. Really looking forward to getting involved in it as well. So. As we said at the start, this is something that's always driven by the community, and they sort of say, well, some of the topics. And I think for the first time in the European conference, the EMEA conference, we've got people on the agenda. So talk to us a little bit about the thinking behind that.
So that kind of came from one of the success of that panel in the US conference, which from all feedback we had was absolutely amazing, and it was brilliant. But also alongside an initiative that was been really championed by FIX's own Maria Netley, which is Next Gen. And unfortunately, Rebecca, you and I are not Next Gen anymore, I don't think.
Keep it to yourself.
And so,
I can morph myself any way I like.
2.0.
and so, yeah, we kind of we like we have MiFID 2, MiFID 3. we need the new FIX 3.0. And the key thing is actually having new blood and new ideas. I think there's a number of very important questions in terms of attractiveness of engagement into capital markets, getting you through, how's the change, how's the evolution, and also getting different people engaged into the industry as well. So I think there are multiple different lenses that you can do on this panel, and I think it will be addressed where it is about differentiation in terms of as a senior manager, in terms of what are the key things that I need to be thinking about. And we're going to have a diverse, differentiated panel with not just the people who are the managers. It's going to be multiple different people, which is going to be great. So it's the lens of what do I need to be thinking about from a management perspective? What do I need to be thinking about from a next gen perspective? And how do I need to be managing my career, and how does that feed through? So I think it's something for everyone. Yeah,
I'm so excited about it, and there's going to be some great conversation from it. Rebecca, you about to?
Well, I think it's just what we're starting to recognise is financial services as an industry has to change, particularly with the evolution of technology. We're bringing in different people, different industries. It's not as siloed as it once was. And with that comes challenges in how do you incorporate a more diverse working team. But it's a change in approach that I think is long overdue, and actually could reap the benefits for all organisations. I think this is the benefit of FIX, is that as important as all the details are in the consolidated tape, and how sort of the approach that the regulators take on a reasonable commercial data basis about data costs, that FIX is also about people, and it's people and community. And it's a really important discussion to have as to how we can work better together.
It's going to be fun, that's for sure. Really looking forward to it. We'll be there on site all the way through. We'll be doing FinTech Focus in the auditorium as well throughout the day, so I'm really looking forward to that. And the networking is fantastic. I think it's always great to catch up with so many faces there that you know, and so many new people. You guys do a brilliant job at allowing that to happen organically throughout the course of the day as well. But I think it's, there's a big part of it that's more than just the networking, and more than an opportunity for people to get together, and that's the benefit of what you guys are talking about. I know you've got a big passion about setting the agenda for the industry. Tell us a little bit about that. See us out with that info.
Setting the agenda, I mean, I think the key thing is taking the topics that came from, and I think this is a challenge to the people that are going to be attending on the day, is actually listening to the content that's come together, thinking about that from your perspective, and taking away what do I need to be focusing on, where do I need to be thinking strategically, where do I need to be changing, whether that be a person in your own personal development, or whether that be actually in terms of your business strategy and how you're evolving or how you're engaging and talking to clients.
Fantastic.
I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier of, when FIX started, it was the birth of electronic trading. And if we look back as to how the industry has evolved and developed over that period of time, it's almost like we're on the next leg now. And I think this year, more than ever, it's really important that people come and hear just how much the industry is changing, because I think it's difficult in your day job sometimes. You're so focused on meeting your clients' goals, etc., that you don't look at that bigger picture. And this is one year more than any other year, I think, that we're starting to recognise that bigger picture is coming faster and quicker than most people recognise, and they need to, get educated and come and join the debate.
You're so on point with that, and I think, as you say, there's, you look at periods of rapid evolution, and with this sort of golden cluster of AI, as we're talking about, with digital assets bursting onto the scene, with everything that's happening at that sort of stage, it's just a completely different marketplace, and I think it will be a fundamentally different change that we'll be seeing. So the opportunity for people to come together and speak about all of that sort of thing is a wonderful thing that you guys are doing. So let's finish with the dates. We haven't spoken about that yet.
Oh yeah, all important.
We should probably talk about that. So the date and where people can find out a little bit more on how to get involved and how to sign up.
March 7th, so not much time. Get your ticket now.
And reach out to the programme office. We've got the FIX website, and that's all up there, all the information, all the agendas up there. Critically, FIX members, there are elements of free passes available. There are technologist passes for certain members. We have next gen passes. So the key thing here again is about not just having all your senior staff there, it's about having diversity and about and being inclusive.
Fantastic.
And they can message us direct if they want.
Yeah.
You'll be tagged in on this as if you're an introduction in any way. And I'm actually, we joked about it beforehand, but if you've seen some of the great sort of two Ronnies and all this sort of stuff that's come through before, the way you two kick it off is always a joy. So,
no, we've got
one of the great double acts of our generation will be seen live as well, I'm sure, in the day too. So thoroughly looking forward to it. Really loved having you in the studio here today. I'm looking forward to March the 7th, and book up now.
See you there.
Thanks a lot. See you there.
Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of FinTech Focus TV.